Hey friend, I think I've already recorded this video and then just didn't put it up. And I think that's because I kept saying to myself, hey, you're working on your new video slash music studio. You should wait until it's done and just make a really high quality video. But the thing is, time keeps going on. I already delayed the release of the second song from the EP. And I don't want to have to do that more. I'm not keeping up with additional content that I wanted to do around it. So it's time to just suck it up. This video is going to be more casual, me holding my phone instead of something a little better produced, if you will. But hopefully that's okay. This is the story behind the song, or philosophy behind the song, as it were, for I Don't Regret Us. And I say the philosophy behind the song rather than the story for multiple reasons. One is for level setting here. One of my artistic philosophies is that it is incredibly limiting as a songwriter to be bound what some songwriters seem to be bound by for some reason, and I don't understand it, is they're like all their songs are just written about what they're going through at that moment. And to me that's like, well, that first of all, if I'm being honest, I think that you can make the argument that you're not even a creative at that point because you're just journaling. Like, is that really a creative thing? That might be a little harsh, but it's also just limiting, right? That's like, a quarterback who can only throw short passes, or a running back who can, only run inside the tackles but can't go outside, or I don't know, whatever. I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan and on top of the world right now, so that's why that's my football analogy. But by the time this video comes out, maybe they'll finally have their first loss and not have 9 wins in a row. But for right now, top of the world. So anyway, song. The reason I say philosophy over story is because I try to treat every song I write as fiction, which means that despite how much of the song is autobiographical, I always treat it like I'm telling a story or putting myself in sort of somebody else's shoes to some extent, just because it's less limiting creatively. And also I never want to be somebody who, I've been happily married for it's going to be 9 years, so it's like 8.5-ish right now, and have 2 kids, and life is amazing. And I don't want every song I write from here on out to just be like, I'm married with 2 kids and everything is awesome, because that sounds really boring and limiting. And I also don't want to be somebody who has to torpedo my own life just to write a better song, which some songwriters do, which is insane. If you're a songwriter, pro tip, don't do that. Instead, just learn to write songs outside of yourself. And just as the last thing, I teach songwriting at songwritertheory.com and Songwriter Theory YouTube channel and stuff. So excuse me as I put my teaching other songwriters hat on for a moment, if you are somebody who is not interested in actually songwriting yourself. But every other creative can't get away with that, right? So I don't know why it is that for songwriters it's almost like a badge of pride of oh, this song is something that it really happened to me last Tuesday. If a screenwriter or a novelist or a painter or any other kind of artist was just limited to themselves, right? If they had to self-insert in every novel they wrote, you would say they were a crappy author. But for some reason with songwriters, it's not like a negative thing. And I think that's wrong. I think it's no, as a songwriter, you should be able to be outside yourself as well. So anyway, I'll say that, ironically, this song is probably compared to the other 5 songs on the EP, this is one of the 2 that's more autobiographical, meaning I can relate to the main character much more so than some other songs. Which is probably true for any human being who's ever been broken up with, right? Is you're kind of left with this well, do I regret that? As a question that would probably almost everybody, except for people like my wife who are lucky enough to just be one and done, that her first boyfriend was me. Except for people who are incredibly lucky like that, the rest of us probably have dealt with that question of, is it better to have loved and lost or never lost at all? But really this song started coming together from, certainly we all have life experiences, so you kind of have that in the back of your mind, and you've asked yourself, was that thing worth it when it didn't end well, or, whatever. But then a TV show I was watching was sort of the last thing where there's a long running will they, won't they? And for like 3 seasons, they let you think like, oh, they're really just never going to get together after all that. And that's sort of what prompted this song finally. And when I say that, I probably already had some of the music going because usually just songwriting wise, my process for the last while at this point, and this song I probably wrote in like 2017 or something, 2018, something like that. So it's kind of an older song at this point, but because I'm catching up on like, recording and releasing songs that I've written. So maybe at some point we'll be within like a year or two of me writing a song. But anyway, so it sort of came together like most songs. I start with some music and I'm like, okay, what's the vibe of this? What does it sound like it would be about? And then wait for a sort of lyrical inspiration and for it to all kind of come together. But this isn't going to be a lyrical breakdown of the song so much as sort of a philosophical / story thing, because I'll have a separate video breaking down the lyrics. But the chorus lyrics, I think, hit at the heart of the question of this song. So the lyrics are, though tears fill my eyes when I remember your face and moments we shared slowly fade away, though keeping your memory is grasping shattered glass, I don't regret us. Yes, I did just read the lyrics. I know my lyrics, but you don't want to screw up. And I'm used to singing them, not saying them. So that chorus really contains a lot of what I think the heart of this song is, which is, we're going to start with the second line, actually. Well, no, we'll start with the first line. So, though tears fill my eyes when I remember your face. That one's pretty straightforward. So it's saying, even though right now the memory of you it's not like a positive thing, right? It's something that elicits sadness, not something that elicits happiness. So despite that is number one. Number two, I think, is the more interesting one. And moments we shared slowly fade away. So this is really interesting. I'm going to actually connect this with something that has nothing to do with romantic anything. But my wife and I were just having a discussion about what things to do and what not to do when it comes to our children, with the question of, well, they won't remember it. So, how much does it matter? So for instance, like we agree putting out, having an awesome birthday party for my daughter when she's 8 definitely makes sense. But for her 3-year-old birthday, does it make sense to go all out when she probably won't remember that? Now, I think we landed on, or at least certainly I landed on, yes, it has value even though she probably won't remember it. Now, it probably has a little bit less value maybe than a 10-year-old birthday, because that she will also remember for the rest of her life, and the 3-year-old one, presumably she wouldn't. And then it turned into a whole discussion of like, okay, well, it probably is dumb to take our kids to like, I don't know, Rome or Jerusalem or something really cool historical that now they just wouldn't appreciate. But like if we went in my backyard, my kids would have just as much fun as those places. So we should wait until they're old enough to appreciate how cool that is and remember it for the rest of their lives. But for something like a birthday party, it doesn't really matter, right? If it makes my daughter excited that day, and for the next 6 months she's talking about it or whatever, it still has value even if she isn't going to remember it for the rest of her life. So I do find, though, that this is a common presupposition that people have when you talk to people, which is this idea that if you don't have a memory of a thing, the thing doesn't have value. Or at the very least, it has much less value. And probably we could have a discussion about whether it has less value if you don't remember it. But I certainly don't think the value goes to zero, right? If you and I have a great conversation, a heart-to-heart, and you forgot it tomorrow, does that mean that our conversation had no value just because you don't remember it? Is the memory the only thing that matters, the only thing that counts? I think the answer is no. But anyway, that's just the second line of the chorus. But I think maybe one of the more interesting parts of this, at least for me, just as somebody who's anecdotally noticed that, oh my goodness, do people presume that if you don't have a memory of a thing, that thing doesn't have any value. Even if they don't say it, it's just, you can see it in the way people treat things. But anyway, and then though keeping your memory is grasping shattered glass, I don't regret us. So that one's kind of wrapping up everything together in a sense, because it's pretty hard to grasp shattered glass. It's also painful to grasp shattered glass, and the glass is already shattered. So you know, what's the value of grasping it at that point, because whatever it was before the you know, the glass, I don't know, what's that called, knick-knack, or whatever it was that was glass, has now shattered. So also what's the value of grasping onto it. I feel like I just said 3 layers, and then it was like, oh, let's not talk about that at all. Let's just talk about the moments we shared slowly fade away. But that's kind of at the heart of this song, right? Is really that question that you're left with at the end, which is to say, was it worth it despite all that? And also, another element to this song is I always find it fascinating how people determine whether something was or wasn't a good idea. And I think it's wrong to decide that something was a good or bad idea based on the result. It is correct to say something was a good or bad idea based on the probabilities you had at the time. So, unfortunately, like, the darkest imaginable thing is the example that came into my mind. I don't want to put that on you today, so so let's pick another one. We'll make it about a relationship, since that's obviously what this song is geared towards. So if you're dating this girl and she's just nothing but red flags, right? You know she's had 7 boyfriends in the last 12 months. You know that she's trouble. She dated your friend and it didn't go well, and he says, man, she's trouble. Like, just all the red flags. And then you go for it, and then you end up having your heart absolutely devastated when you probably knew that's how it was going to end based on literally all the evidence. That's something where it kind of makes sense to regret that thing, because you, even when you made the decision to date her, you knew the information that would have told you it wasn't a good idea. So to me, that is worth regretting. But to go on the total opposite end of the spectrum, if there's somebody that you think, you know what, even what I know today, I think they're an awesome person and they would be totally worth a shot, right? If you still stand by, like, no, they're an awesome person, like, it didn't work out for whatever reason, but, like, they're kind, they're nice, they're good, they're, I don't want to say good person, because no one is good, not one. But you know, overall, if you're like, no, they're, you know, it didn't turn out, but that it was 100% worth a shot, they were awesome, then you probably shouldn't regret it, because you took the right shot, it just didn't work out. Right? Let's compare it to football again. Sometimes in football, you dial up the right play, but it doesn't work out. For instance, my team, the Broncos, just won in a crazy fashion in overtime on Sunday Night Football against the horribly named Commanders. Ugh, what a just disgusting, lame, pathetic team name. But anyway, the play that the Commanders dialed up for the 2-point conversion to win the game was 100% right, because the guy that they wanted to throw it to was wide open. Wide open. They had the win. But it just so happened that quarterback maybe waited a little too long to pass, and then didn't loft it enough. Didn't get enough height on it. And Nick Bonito, pass rusher, batted it down. Game over, Broncos win, 9-game winning streak. That play call was 100% right. The guy was wide open. The execution just made it so that it didn't work. So should that coach regret that play call? No. He made the absolute right play call, but players got to play. And in that case, his players didn't execute to the level they should have. The Broncos did. So I think that's the better way to look through things, but people usually don't look through it that way. And that's another sort of philosophy that's underpinning this song. So anyway, this has already gone longer than I intended, but let me know what you think about all that. Let me know what you think about whatever element of that you found most interesting, or that you disagree with the most, or that you agree with the most. But that's essentially the story behind I Don't Regret Us. We'll do other videos breaking down, like, maybe getting a little deeper into the lyrics, doing a lyrical breakdown, because I wish artists I liked did that, so I'll do it with my own stuff. And then probably do one that's like an arrangement breakdown of, you know, sort of all the different parts to it and how it all came together musically. And then, I don't know, there'll be other videos too. But let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Talk to you in the next one.